Grace and peace be unto you from God the Father and our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. I like starting off slow. I'm trying to keep this pace. I didn't really drink any coffee because I want to make sure that I'm making myself very, very clear. Let's see if I can put this up here. I left my coffee in here. Do me a favor, Richardson. Type 1. How am I sounding? Good morning. Good morning, Mello. Good to see you, brother. How's the family? Everything good? Shalom. How are you? Good to see you. All right. I sound great. Good, good, good. Um, I get a lot of emails and stuff, and some folks just don't. They don't listen. They don't listen. They just gonna be hard. And I tell them people are gonna cut and paste 500 scriptures. I don't need anyone's dissertation. I don't need anyone. We're good. Okay, I'm all right. I'm all right. I can't complain. I could complain, but I'm not. And I tell people, try to keep it short, and I'll definitely read it. Good to see you, Tony. We appreciate you. And I tell people that I'll definitely read it. And sometimes I get some people, they write straight to the point. Sometimes it's too short. Some folk hit me and said, your people and them, talking about my the Israelite lady, Sister E, those are my people over there. And when I talk, I'm talking about everybody. When I say my brothers and sisters, she said, your people in them, I don't know whoever the person was in the email said, your people in them, yes, sir, we up early, and I'm glad you're here. They hit me in the email and they said, your people in them are defending, talking about moderate Israelite people, moderate Hebrews, they're defending the camps. Because for some of y'all that don't know, I'm just let y'all know my sister and my brother been back and forth. This sister nephew been back and forth with the Zondervan and this and that, and a brother Dante. They've been a little bit back and forth with that. So people hitting me trying to say that Sister E and them over there defended the camps. I said in the video that I wasn't sure of any moderates that were using that. But I want to kind of explain to people that these are things that have to happen. Brian, grace and peace. These are things that have to happen, and the reason that they have to happen is because we follow what's known as the historical approach to the scriptures. So we're going to find certain things that are going to take place. We're going to find certain things that are going to take place, and they're attempting to get to the bottom of some things. Now, the pastor Majors had a professor on, and I urge y'all to look at that video. I often tell people DNA's not going anywhere when we start talking about this whole Israelite movement. Science is in there. People are going to deal with science. And, a lot of people are going to Family Tree, 23andMe, and all of that stuff because people are curious. People want to know where they come from. And people have lied. When we deal with what's known as the historical approach, there's two ways we can approach this thing. Tony. We can approach this thing and spiritualize the text, allegorize the text, but some of us want to go half and half. We want to make the land a physical place of Israel, and we want to take that land. That's what they said, defending the camps. Oh, I'm gonna get into it. Oh, they defending the camps. A lot of people want to make Israel spiritual, and they want to make the Jerusalem the actual land, a physical place. But when we start talking about the people, so we won't get into DNA and race and evidence and all of this stuff, they want to spiritualize the text. So you'll hear things like spiritual Israel and stuff like things of that nature. But in all actuality, when the Bible came about and when Europe was conquering back in the days in the 15th, 16th, 17th century and all of that stuff, and science was just coming on the scene. It's an important part to understand when we start talking about that Hermetic hypothesis and stuff like that. People were looking at the Bible. When Europe was a quote-unquote Christian nation, people were looking at the Bible. And looking at the Bible, they would attempt to show some stuff. Those of us that have grown up in church, I'm a little older, we grew up in church and we always heard that Ham was the African people. Somalia, Egypt, 105th Psalm, the land of Ham, Cam, Cush, KMT, Kemet, the land of Kemet, and things of that nature. So we were always taught this. And Japheth was Europeans, and this is how we're taught in text, because Darwinism was coming out, science was on the rise, but for the most part, the scientists were battling with the Bible. They were anthropologists and they were archaeologists that were doing things, and they were traveling around, and they would travel with the Bible. Early archaeologists, they were using the Bible, they were dependent on the Bible as their primary source to show them stuff about different lands and about different people. So that was the theory that everyone was going with. But they started traveling. Europeans started traveling and conquering, and that's how come I tell people you got to be careful with the lens that you read. If you read the text with a racist lens, you're going to come up with racist stuff. Whatever you want to find in the Bible, you're going to find it. Oh, you can't trust a big button spot. You're going to find it in the Bible. You're going to run to Samson. You're going to read into the text. However you do it, you'll find what you're looking for. And they were looking for certain things. And everywhere that they went, they saw certain things. They said that they were finding lighter people, brown people. And these light people, or if they seemed like an advanced civilization, they would separate the advanced civilization, even though it was on the continent of Africa, they would separate the advanced civilization from the other civilizations. So they saw pyramids and said automatically those Africans couldn't build them. So the light-skinned people did it. There were people in Mesopotamia, there were people in Egypt or North Africa, and those were really Hermetic people, but they were white people. They were white black people. Light-skinned people, and they were the smarter people, the smarter race, because in their mind they couldn't believe that we would go somewhere and we would find another people. So when they got there, automatically they had to prove from the Bible, because they believed in the Bible, plus this new emergent science, that we're above everybody else. So they got here, they met the Indians, they're above the Indians. They named the Indians because they were lost. They named the Indians, and they weren't even Indians. They just named them Indians because they were looking for Indians, and they were doing what they want to do. And they were doing the same thing. The brother, there's a gentleman that's on TEDx. He wrote a book speaking on that Hermetic hypothesis, and that's where the argument came in with the sister. And like I said, it's interesting. That sister is my sister nephew. That's my sister, and that brother Dante is my brother. We are co-laborers. Who knows? And who knows? They get to heaven. You know, they back and forth a little bit with a few videos. Get to heaven, they might be living right next door from each other. Don't nobody start hitting me with no emails about heaven and we're going to live on earth and all that. I know all that stuff. I just threw that out there. So going back to those people, they approached the text with a certain lens. They approached the text with a certain lens and said, these are good white folk, and these white folk discovered everything. And everything that they saw and they liked, they said these were our people that discovered it. Forget that Japheth and them were supposed to be the European nations and Ashkenazi and all of that other stuff. They started fitting themselves in where they wanted to fit themselves in. So even when we got ancient writers like Doris, and we got Herodotus and Josephus that's saying certain things, forget about what the people said. When these people went there and they saw the priest of Kemet, forget about what they say the people look like. This is what our story is. And people started riding with that story. Now, we got to be careful, because remember, we argue Manly P. Hall, we argue Pike and Blavatsky and them people that want to allegorize and spiritualize the whole text. Because if this text was spiritual, we wouldn't have no problem with this whatsoever. Oh, don't worry about a real Nimrod. Don't worry about a real Ham coming up off that ark, and Ethiopians and Cush and them being the first builders, and Nimrod became a mighty hunter in the earth. There was an allegorized text. I'll write it out like secret teachers. I'll write it out like the Freemasons would, and other people that follow esoteric and Hermetic schools of thought. But because we approach the book historically, as soon as I get into Kemet and I start talking about Moses and the children of Israel in Egypt, somebody that's taking it, all right, Berean, sound like you're taking the text historically, you're coming with the historical approach. Who was the Pharaoh? Those are quick, because if it's allegorical, it's one thing. We don't worry about a Pharaoh. There's a deeper, higher meaning, a higher truth to the story. But we're saying it's historical, so when Garfield and when other folk get to coming to us and asking about who's the Pharaoh, let's look for some artifacts out in the wilderness if they've been in the wilderness for 40 years. And that's, I hate to tell y'all, but that's fair stuff, because that's the way we're approaching the text. So these folk turn around and they approach the text. Are you the Ethiopians to me? Are you yes. So if we're approaching the text that way, we run into some serious problems, because we have to get into certain things like, who are these people? Now people want to spiritualize the text after people took the text and did what they wanted to do with the text, and they claimed they were doing what they wanted to do with the text and the people. Now remember, this is all coming up in a time when Europe is conquering different nations, and they have to justify, because there's white folk that's nervous. White folks say, why are y'all man stealing? Why are y'all got these people in bondage? People had to justify what they were doing, so they used the Bible and they used science, and they remixed the game. We got to talk about the remix. A lot of people don't want to talk about the remix. And then when you bring up color and you're trying to deal with it, oh, you're making it a carnal thing. You're making it a color thing. No, we're not. We're trying to clean up the lies. Because people have lied. And they've lied in the name of the Lord. And it's okay. So when we approach the text this and people are looking at certain things and arguing certain things, and we're attempting to bring out certain things, we run into a problem and people are mad at us. I like something the professor said yesterday. We have to understand a lot of Africa. But what these people think is, what these people don't know is before the Metuneta, before writing, before Hebrew, which is one of the oldest languages on the planet. Now, I got a lot of bishops that even hit me and said, no, Hebrew might be the language of Adam and Eve. That's a whole nother thing. That's a whole nother thing. If y'all think it is, we can talk about that later on. But we have to understand something. People were writing, and before people were writing, people already had an oral tradition. Put that word down there to start with a G. In Africa, we had people like priests, and they would hand down the tribe's information and lineage and family line. People said, oh, if I play the Chinese whisper game, I whisper to you, I whisper to you. By the time I get down there, no, we weren't playing them games in Africa. We had grown folk, and I would teach my child and our family. We would be the historians. So people had a history, an oral history, and oral tradition is powerful. People these days are trying to disrespect oral tradition, but oral tradition is powerful. And oral tradition was on the, thank you so much, Sheila. So before oral tradition, before we had the Metuneta, before people were writing, before the cuneiform, and the priests controlled that earlier, before that writing and stuff, we had oral tradition from grown folk. Not playing no Chinese whisper, grown folk handing down a tribe's history. And I like that professor brought that out when he started talking about a history, because a lot of people want to do certain things with West Africa, and we're trying to figure that out. Is everybody in West Africa? Nobody in West Africa were Hebrews. A lot of people in West Africa were Hebrews. This is what people are looking at. And they're doing that because they're trying to straighten out some stuff that came on the scene before. That's all it is. Hey, grace and peace, Holy One of Israel. And this is the problem. These are the things that we ran across. So we ran across a whole bunch of line. I'm gonna give y'all some example. When they had, y'all go Google the cocaine mummies. These people could not imagine. They said the test couldn't be right, that they would find mummies with cocaine in them. What are mummies from Africa? What are mummies from Africa doing with cocaine when cocaine is indigenous to the Americas? Because in their mind, they could like, I know these Egyptians, I know these Africans ain't had no boats and made it all the way to America before the Spaniards and the Portuguese. It's impossible. Because in their mind, when they look at the people as beneath them, they can't believe in their mind that it's a people over there. Their mind had them so much, when they met a people, they went back and said, we discovered a land. They done met tribes and tribes. They done seen hundreds of people and brought some of them people back to Europe, and they said, we discovered a land. Them folk was already there. So I'm not mad when I see my younger brothers and sisters working things out and going through certain things. Go from folk in line out here. But the problem is now, Berea, you said white folk lied. That's not Christian. That's not because you don't expect a good Christian. Listen, I'm going to tell you folk on something right now. If Jesus is about the truth, and you shall know the truth, and all that good stuff we like quoting, because we like quoting the book till it comes down to real life facts. We got to mix the Bible with what's going on in reality in our lives today. Love this channel. Thank you so much, and we appreciate your support in that super chat. So we want y'all to know that this is what it is. This is real. This isn't a fantasy make-believe book. If we're going to deal with it, let's deal with the whole thing, and let's deal with all of it. What he told my homegirl was hitting me out. She be dog, my people. Shout out to my people. She hit me. She said, eat the whole book. I want the whole book. And he told her with the scroll, he told the prophet, he said, eat it up. And it went in bitter. This is a bitter pill to swallow. This is a bitter pill to swallow, because God is love. But love at the same time is confrontational. This is the part where they don't like me. This is the part where they say, no, what he's doing is wrong. What you're saying is wrong. He said, white folk lied, and he's white. He sure did. I urge people to look at that. And it hit harder when it comes from a white professor. Because I've been saying, I got to be fair, Pastor Major. I've been saying, you can say what you want. They got to come with people in the field. He brought somebody in the field. And it hit different when it's a white man. He brought somebody in the field, and he said, if you think nobody in Africa was practicing Hebrew religion. He was like, oh, my goodness. So then later on, like I said, these people may break down and say, there are certain people, and if we do find them and they seem to be practicing the Hebraic faith, they were converts. Were everybody converts? Because if we really looking at the book, and we said Abraham was a literal person, Nimrod was a literal person, we see that Abraham and them people was mixing with some other people. We're darker people, and then we don't hear about Japheth. We don't hear about European. We don't hear about them other folk right there till later on. Then they get jumping with Alexander the Great and all of that stuff. Then we see them jumping. They were on the scene. They weren't seen, but they were major players in the Bible. And it's okay. It's okay. That's not saying they can't be saved. That's not saying they're different from another. It's okay. Let's just call the thing for what it is, and let's just look at the text and let's just read the text. The majority of the text that we read in this way, it wasn't jumping in Rome. Rome wasn't jumping when Abraham was on the set. Germany wasn't jumping. Spain and Portugal wasn't jumping. Later on, when in the first century, when Christ came on the scene, of course there were people down there. Now, how am I going to approach the text? Because when we look at the text, some people would argue, even if we're arguing from a historical point of view, can I argue that Abraham, the people Noah's Ark, we got to go back to that Noah story, and that ark was the whole world flooded. Remember, I'm a literalist with the text, was the whole world flooded, was just part of the world flooded. And those people, when they wrote in the text, when Moses wrote in the text and he spoke about Shem, Ham, and Japheth, did the whole world populate through them, or were the Chinese and people in Vietnam on the other side of the planet? With the people in Hong Kong and Korea on the other side of the planet that Moses and them never saw before? How do we understand the text? And the whole earth was flooded. How do we understand that text? Some people want to argue. Most people I know in Islam argue that part of the world was flooded. Can we argue? Because if we do it, we're going to do it from science. Can we argue for a worldwide flood? That all the mountains on the planet were underwater. Every single, and then we'll attempt, if I'm going to argue, I'm going to attempt to use science, that word that we're trying to fight sometime. We're going to attempt to use that. So now how are we going to work this thing out? When they were writing about everybody? And if they were writing about everybody, what we going to do? Because Dr. Ben and them, this is where Dr. Ben and Van Sertima and them came on the set. They were part of the conscious community, the earlier master teachers, and they said, these white folk is lying. Excuse my language. They said these folk is lying, and that's what Dr. Ben and them argued. And they said, being that the white people wanted to use the Bible too, we can still use the Bible, because even the Bible says Nimrod. That's why I tell y'all, when I start writing about a Cushite, they say Nimrod began to be a mighty one in the earth. Oh, I got to park right there for a minute. Oh, because Freemasons are shout out Nimrod. When we start talking about Tubal Cain, I'm talking about Genesis right now. I got to park right here for a minute. I got to figure out how we're going to work this thing out. And if Nimrod became a mighty one in Cush, and I look at that, I see Ethiopians. And then when I go to Herodotus and Diodorus and them, I know Josephus and them, I know a whole bunch of people thought. I know the Roman soldier, when Paul was under arrest, they thought Paul was aren't thou the Egyptian? They just put him under some handcuffs. They ain't know what was going on now. Ooh, pump your brakes. Because if the ancient witness, if the ancient priest, if the ancient Strabo and them, if the ancient travelers looked at them as a darker hue of people, a brown or a darker hue of people, we got to figure something out. The Bible says that Africans were the first builders. So when you go to Africa and you see some buildings, what would make you think it's Europeans that built the buildings in Africa when the Bible tells us? How you looking at the text, Christian man? Christian woman, how you reading the text? You want to allegorize the text where you want to allegorize the text to make your race superior? Because we got some Christians running around here that they really believe on the low that they superior. I ain't paying James and Vody and all them. I ain't paying none of them folk no mind right there. We got to figure out, and y'all started it. I'm talking, when I say y'all, I'm talking about white Christians when they were traveling. They started it. So we're just trying to work through it. Nobody's tearing down the Bible. And at the same time, nobody's dragging W.D. Fard, and nobody's dragging the mothership and the tribe of Shabazz and the Nation of Islam. We dealing with our book. All of us claiming this book that's in this room right here. Yeah, now we got to figure, come on to the site and sit down and let's talk. Now we got to figure out, now it's a problem. Now it's a problem. Oh, why did the black, well, now we got the white authorities. So we got not all white Christians, but we got some white authorities. Why are we worried about color? Why are we discussing these things? Because y'all discussed it, and y'all made multiple commentaries on it, making the people beneath you. Wait a minute, if that guy jumped out from behind that car and raped that woman, the woman could come to court and say, Your Honor, I forgive him, but he still got to do time. He might turn around and do it again. Oh, that's why I bring this stuff up. That's why y'all don't like coming over here. That's why I bring this stuff up. But they wanna throw those protective barriers up there. He's a racist. Oh, Berean, you talking about race, and some of you black Christians, y'all so saved, so holy, and so spiritualized the text, you can't see that Jesus was a literal Israelite. Because we can be like the Gnostics, and we can make him the Christ consciousness like Oprah and them. We can do him like that. But y'all don't want to do that. So this is what I'm saying. When I got on here with them brothers and they start talking about Jesus wasn't a white man, they don't know the depths of where this is going to go. The whole truth. I said the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help me God. Amen. And this is what we got. And then this is where we have some problems. This is the thing. Israel is physical and spiritual. Up next just said that. So we got to look at the thing. We believe in the spiritual, but like you said, the physical too. Now, one thing I can say, even after listening to that professor that was on with Pastor Major, I can say that me growing up in New York City, I can say that I have never really met any Jews that didn't say you could be black and be Jewish. And they said I've met Jews. I grew up. My mother worked in the hospital with Jewish people from I was born. And they never said, they never made it about a race. They never made it about, if y'all look around real good, that's how come I got to watch people and y'all can say what y'all want to bring. When I bring them on, I say, what about the people over there in Israel? Because if you're running around here saying that I'm this, dealing with bloodline, dealing with heritage, I want to see what your opinion is on those people. Are you going to say that those people are my brothers and sisters too? Like I say, my pastor, the people that I rocks would say, oh, those are brothers and sisters. Oh, we got European Jewry that's part of Israel. And then if them white folk was devils over there, I got some questions for y'all. If them white folk over there in Israel was devils, like the camps are teaching us, why would they Operation Moses? Why would they airlift Ethiopians? Now we know it's racism in the country, on the planet, with a darker hue of people, because the first thing people want to say is, well, they took them over there, but they treat them like second-class citizens. We're treating black Brews like second-class citizens here in America. That's a phenomenon that's going on across the planet. But why would the white lion Jews airlift Ethiopian Jews back over there if they were racist? These are just questions. We just bringing stuff out and we building. I think it's good to build. So then people, when they hit me, tell me, yo, your girl and them is they over there defending the camps. What you gonna do? Because they always trying to, they're gonna find something to shoot her down. So if I got the email and they said it, I know they sent it to the bishop and them. Oh, look, because they look at them, they pray for my downfall. But this is Christ's thing, and I'm just attempting to get up and boldly speak a truth and just make people look. Listen, them people could be our brothers and sisters over there. Let's just be careful. Let's just be careful. Let's just chill with this whole thing, and let's just work it out. We're attempting to go through years and years of lying. Science has helped us out. Anthropology, DNA has helped us out to really try to sort some of this stuff out. I can't say it was just about black people. They hated black people. It's about money. But Europe is conquering and Europe is getting money, and Europe is a Christian, quote-unquote Christian nation, so they're going to put themselves as the dominant people throughout the book. So of course we're going to have British Israelism. Oh, we are the 10 chosen tribes, and that's how come you got Britain and all of these other great nations, because we're the tribes that were spread abroad. Then I'm going to hit y'all later on. I'm going to hit y'all. I don't even want to do it right now because they're going to say I'm down with them fools too much. But I'm going to tell y'all right now, I heard a long time ago, and I got it from that other mystic, that other Freemason that started the Mormon church. He said part of the lost tribes traveling, they had some of it. They feel they had some commandments, and them was Indians. There's a close connection with Freemasonry and the Ethiopians. And the Ethiopians, be it that they were converted to Judaism or whatever, but with Marcus Garvey and the whole conscious movement, those was Israelites, those were Freemasons. And they were saying, we the people of the book is going to help deliver us. I'm talking about before Marcus Garvey was jumping, Leonard Howland, and we got to look into some stuff. Oh, Berean is spiritual. Forget about the Rastafari. Forget about them dreads and the nasty. No. You so much into, these folk got you hating hairstyles that come from your land. While some of them people, like some good European brothers and sisters, and in Jamaica, ain't no bunch of that stuff. You got some white dreads. Y'all know that? They love the history, they love the culture, and they love the sour. Oh Lord, I shouldn't have said that. They just love all of that stuff, and they come from the culture. That's also, there's a lot of stuff we got to look at. I listen, like I said, those are my peeps over there. That sister, she's my peep. Shout out to her. Shout out to Sister Nevi. Shout out to Brother Dante. They peeps, and we working through some things. We just working through some things. So I sit back and I watch it. I'm like, all right, the truth is going to come out, because primarily that's what I want, dialogue. That's good dialogue right there. Some good talking is coming up. So the Hermetic hypothesis is them saying that there's some white people. They white people, but they in Africa, but they really white people. And we see a thread of that, and I think it's fueled by racism, and it was in scholarship, and it was in the religion. And on the low, we have residue of it. That's how come when you see police brutality, that's when you see this killing with the brother down in Georgia, and they chased him down and gunned him down, talking about he's in a house. Or listen, if white Christians aren't speaking about it, because a lot of them got the residue. We don't know what he was doing. They got the residue of superiority. That's how come we feel some type of way when we in church with a bunch of y'all, not all of y'all, but with a bunch of y'all, we feel a superiority, something that y'all got, and that's residue from that. Y'all think y'all better than us. Not all of us. I got my man and them, they married to European sisters, and those sisters are my sisters in Christ. So I'm not saying all of them. So don't go running saying, Berean, do you love white folk? What other fool said, do you love vocab? Vocab is peeps, but you ain't gonna start thumping me in the head with that nonsense, because I know the game, because I know what these folk done laid out, because I know the energy that's in the air. Oh, it's the energy out here. And you other people, oh, don't worry about it. They using, that's how come I can say they could be unwillingly using a lot of black pastors. A lot of these black pastors and you fools running around here speaking up for that guy down here 1600 and oh, and he's a good man and he's God's man and all of that stuff sound good. But listen, preacher, you can't keep us quiet. There's some of us that's smarter than a lot of these pastors in the pulpit right now. Y'all trying to spiritualize the text. You don't even know the history of interpretation and how the text came down, mister. Y'all don't. And this is just what it is. Like I said, this is not to disrespect. You can confront somebody and you can confront them in love. We can confront a situation, and that's what we're attempting to do, confront a situation in love and bring up some sources, bring up some scholars, bring up some, what's the one that my brother and them brothers hit me, and they was talking about the other guy, because y'all love Jonathan Edwards and all these other good white folk that had slaves. How we gonna work this out? Some white folk was like, this ain't right. But they started writing commentary. Oh, no, God made it this way. You got to remember the curse of Ham. And they started going and digging and looking. And they went to European Jewry. They went to Talmud from other Jews that been around, that been a light skin, looking like them Arabs over there, disrespecting us like Muhammad and them people. Let me give y'all this for the record. Muhammad ain't black. Let me give y'all this for the record. For y'all folk that love Western Muhammad and the Nation of Islam and Farrakhan and them, salute them, shout out to them. Muhammad ain't black. Y'all better read Hadith. Some people say, well, Hadith came later on. Hadith don't like black people. Oh Lord, why did you see how I be going on? You see how I be. Let me park the car for a minute. I'm going too fast down the road. But we got to look at these things. No, Quakers were one of the main ones. Quakers were one of the main ones that help us. So that's a whole other side of the story. Because when I start talking about slavery, when I start talking about the Quakers and different people, if it wasn't for the, I'm going to ask y'all a question. I often tell people this, and people get offended. Do me a favor, give me a thumbs up. People get offended when I said if it wasn't for white folk, the Underground Railroad, we couldn't make it. We couldn't make it. We stayed up as a Quaker. How we stayed up as some white folk. How some white folk was holding us down. And I know y'all don't like that. That's how come it's hard. I can't say I hate every white person. Every white person is bad. We can't say that. It's the heart. It's the heart. God looks on the heart. The heart of some people were excellent. There were some people that had a heart after God. No, these are God's people. This thing is wrong. This thing is wrong. And they were white people and they helped us, so we worked together. You know how many white people, white women taught black men, black boys how to read? Frederick Douglass, the movement wouldn't have got going if it wasn't for God, his righteousness, and his righteous folk. Rocking with Harriet Tubman was plenty white folk. They were like, oh no, they were just from the North. No, they were Bible believers. They said, I don't know what this man stealing nonsense is, but the South going to stop it. This is what it is. This is what it is. I don't even know what that thing is. $$ Berean teacher, if y'all want to put something in that thing, but I don't know. Like I said, I think I'm gonna put that Patreon thing on hold. I wasn't even putting that link out there, but I'm gonna discuss the demons thing. I'm gonna discuss that demons with my Zoom. I think my Zoom people, Patreon and everybody, I think I'm gonna do that with Zoom, because certain stuff I don't even know if this should have been out there, because people will take what you say in young, weak, feeble minds. Let's put it that way. Some feeble minds will take it, and as soon as you start, they can't equate you talking about race and having historical discussions. They can't equate it with spirituality. That's a problem. When your spirituality can't have you facing the facts of life. Listen, I'm in the hood and I'm messed up right now. My spirituality, that's why the psychologists want to say we use religion as a crutch, because mentally we can't begin to grasp those things. So they think we just want to jump and bump into each other and touch our neighbor and dance and think about a future time. No, I got to talk about what's going on right here, right now, with this word, with spirituality and understanding the signs of the times. We're living in Revelation. You better look at that book, and you better apply that book right now to what's happening, to the future too. But the Bible is also a right now book, and there's been too many people that's involved in the culture trying to push it off to heaven, push it off to everything gonna be all right. I don't think I can separate. You can't really read the Bible and that the God is the God of the oppressed and see people being shot down in the streets and can't put the two together. I rebuke that spirit right now. That spirit coming from the supremacists. But the hurtful thing is the supremacists carry the title of Christian. We got a bunch of bags called Louis bags out here. What that mean? But y'all get confused when we hear people use the term Christian. Y'all just automatically, they're a Christian and God said down. No, big deal, you're a Christian. You're a big deal. That man say you're a Christian. Automatically, you're going to leave your daughter, you're going to leave your child at that man's house. You don't know who he is? Just because he say he a Christian? Oh, that's the molesters been using that. How they been doing this? How I get back on, I'll send you the link. Hit my link. I don't know if you got that new number. I left that little phone on the bed. So these are things that we got to discuss. But because these are hard and challenging topics, people are offended. People are offended at anybody that wants to talk about it now. We got even black preachers that saying, "Oh no, that's you. Oh, that's another level of stuff. That ain't Christ and God's kingdom. God's kingdom is not gonna be. God ain't worried about that stuff. God ain't worried about that stuff. God's worried about His kingdom and His kingdom only. Well, if He's not worried about His kingdom, the least we can do is preach and declare the things that's not of His kingdom. And if you see that the people are declaring things that's not of His kingdom, some of these people, when you start seeing the behavior of some of the good white police officers. And I'm going to tell y'all something else, and it's not even to put all my business out there, but one thing I can say, one counselor, one brother I spoke with, he said he came from the military. You know, he was all out there with the whole Iran-Contra thing. And he was discussing some stuff, and I brought out, you know, and I was talking to him, and I was just talking about, you know, me and some of my past and just violence. There's some things, I don't know if y'all ever been in shootouts and stuff like that, or home invasion, anything like that. Shooting guns and shooting people, there's a power that you feel behind that. Somebody run up on you, and I'm like, oh, them guys coming down the street, please don't cross the street. I'm like, oh Lord, they crossing. Pull that thing out, and you started hitting. You could think you shot the gun 2 or 3 times. You let off 12 rounds. The gun is empty. There's an adrenaline that comes with that, and when you feel like you won, there's a God complex that comes with busting guns. Why you think of the hood, everybody pulling out guns, shooting guns? Because there's a power, there's something that you feel with guns. Feel good to let them off. And it's not the end of the world even if you shoot somebody. It's not the end of the world. I'm not promoting shooting or violence, but if you know somebody's coming to do you harm and you pulled out that equalizer and you gave them and you put some rounds in them, you're like, okay, you feel better. You feel better. I don't want to be on the end of the bullets. So if it's between me and you, who you think is going to, what you think I'm going to do? Not saying now, but I was just talking about the past with him and how, and he said, you know, him coming from the military, he said, yeah, I understand that. So when these cops out here and they letting it go, they don't care if you do running away, you disrespecting the badge, you running from me, you blew at my man in that car. I don't care if it was 15 minutes later and you in another county. When we get out that car, I'm blowing that thing at you. I'm breaking up them car, and that's the attitude a lot of officers have. Maybe it don't have to do with race. It just have to do with running and disrespecting the badge. You getting kicked, you getting stomped out before these handcuffs get on you. And after these handcuffs get on you, you might get a bloody lip and some broken ribs. And that's a lot of their attitude. So they move and they run like that. So I try to look at it from both sides of the fence. But we got to know there's a lot of our people out here being abused. Now, am I on the side for these people doing bad things? Absolutely not. When Ray and them, listen, you in there and you shooting out and you done robbed the people in the store, you kidnapping and all that carrying on, and the cops got you and hit you up in the car. I'm like, oh man, I don't know. You done shot the girl in the store. I'm not going to be out here marching and carrying on. Ray, you was wrong and you were blowing at the cops. We got you on dash cam. 100,000 black people out here marching. I don't know if I want to march for Ray. I'm tired of marching. And I show you for the now, if you were a good old, you know, if you're a law-abiding citizen, good law-abiding citizen, and you wasn't in the midst of a crime, that's a different story. I don't want to march for felonies. I don't want to march for when people have done wrong. Wrong is wrong. Period. And we got to look at that too. It's a lot. All right, y'all. I'm gonna get out of here. I don't know how much time. I done messed with my nap time before all these classes. Messing around with y'all, so I'm gonna have to get a coffee now. Hopefully, I talked a little slower. And people kind of really got the gist of what I'm saying. I got a heart for God's people. We ain't trying to bang, we ain't trying to disrespect. I got European brothers and sisters out there, love God, love the kingdom. I got brothers married to European sisters, beautiful sisters, you know what I'm saying, and vice versa. You know, it's no big thing. We're all God's children to as many as received him. Not everybody, but to as many as received him. We're all God's children. We can tell by our fruits, we can tell by action, we can tell by our thoughts. And I just don't want nobody to be scared to have hard conversations. These things are needed. And it's so crazy, but these young folk, they're pressing for it. So we're not going to do nothing but drive them out to church trying to spiritualize the whole text. I'll get into part 2 when we start talking about the historical thing, and then we start talking about allegorizing the text, and when we look at allegory and types and stuff like that, you know. I'll probably do that publicly. Everybody need to hear this. If you like what you heard, subscribe. I haven't said that in a long time. All right, y'all. I'll see you later.